Hello, everyone, and welcome to MMA Start to Finish. I'm Julian, and this is Matt.
Yellow.
If you are a recurring listener, you may notice the lack of jet engine noise in the background. The production value has gone up slightly. I'll put it that way, and hopefully we have a little bit better audio quality now in terms of ambient noise and our microphones.
It's almost kind of startling going from that background hum to just dead silence at this point.
Yeah. So, today we're going to be talking about Pride 6, taking another trip to Japan to talk about a 3-hour card again.
Yeah.
Our prayers are with you if you endured this entire card with us. Hopefully you also made use of the arrow key function.
I think we've always been the Yokohama Arena.
Just
about.
I'm pretty sure they did at least one card in a different location, but large venues in Japan for all these early prides. Much bigger budget than the UFC cards in the 90s.
And it showed by the indoor fireworks that
Yes.
they had this time.
The pro wrestling style pyro. They brought out the competitors in the main event and the co-main event and shone spotlights on them very dramatically.
Even weirder, they were announcing, I think we didn't get a translation for it. It was just straight Japanese.
Yeah.
I think they were going like on their record or whatever. And then spotlight turns on and it's the only light in the entire place.
Yes.
And it's just them standing in the center. They wave and it turns off. Then they announce the next person, new person in the center.
Very disorienting.
And I'm just imagining someone scrambling to get there.
I liked the ominous intro for Pride 5 better, but maybe that's just me. Two of those men they introduced to us were Mark Kerr and Nobuhiko Takata. Takata fresh off his less than savory victory against Mark Coleman. Yakuza money.
Yeah.
The fact that the fight made it into the second round too did not help our anxiety about the potential for it being fixed, because that's also the path that the Mark Coleman fight took. The first round was like weirdly competitive in a way that you didn't really make too much sense, and then Takata just won in the second round.
Yeah.
So I was worried we were on a similar path.
To be honest, I could still see how this fight is still fixed.
Yeah, you said you had some thoughts about that you wanted to save for when we spoke for the people.
Mm-hmm. So it makes a real good story to have it be I don't want to say the teacher loses to the, I guess, villain.
Villain, but like villain is in their hometown and is
so it'd
actually
be
the
like-
hero.
So,
For American audiences, the villain, I guess.
Yeah. So in this case, it's flipped around. The hero beats the master villain.
Master Shredder.
Yeah. But then their pupil.
If I watched more Ninja Turtles, maybe I would know about some pupil of Master Shredder.
I don't know if
I
I've never
don't.
watched it either.
All right.
But the
You're gonna
pupil.
get shit for that. Go on.
All right, come at me. The pupil now takes revenge for the master, and now they have won.
Yeah, I mean, the fight was weird. There was plenty of times in the fight where I felt like, just frankly, Mark could have hurt him more, and didn't. Which,
Oh yeah, it looked painful, that
Yeah.
finish, but I could.
yeah, I mean, I guess let's get, if we're gonna kind of just get to the end of it. Yeah, let's look at that finish.
There it
That
is.
is a legitimate key lock. Like that's in there pretty deep. I mean, he didn't snap that bitch, so it's not like there's some irreparable damage done, but it didn't feel good.
They can't. The accuser wouldn't let him.
Yes.
He knows not to break the good merchandise.
You kind of have me wondering if this fight was completely legitimate or not. I can see both sides of the argument. Leave your in the comments down below your thoughts. Do you think this fight was fixed? Do you have some article on some forum I'm unaware of that proves this fight's fixed? Please post a link. Please tell us what you know.
There's potential for it being fixed. I'm still wary about it.
Well, I kind of, just to add on to what you're saying about that, it does fit along with like pro wrestling style, like prearranged booking, because unless you have some big unstoppable dude, you usually don't book them to just like win over and over again. So if this is like the hero, if Takata is like the baby face of the promotion who they're trying to push, you wouldn't have him win every fight.
Yeah,
so
he's got to
have
lose.
some adversity to overcome.
And who better than the pupil of
The
the
dude
one
he
he
just
just
beat.
defeated? Yeah.
Yeah, the smashing machine. So I follow your logic. It's also what would be the more fun thing to have be true, and I understand I'm susceptible to that as well.
Yeah.
So
Like, imagine you're a wrestling fan in Japan. You're in your current age, but you're in Japan, and
you're a 20-something-year-old,
1999.
and
and the biggest wrestling name has just defeated the biggest actual fighting. I don't know about the biggest actual fighting name.
well, there
but
was a
giant
period,
fighting name.
a period in the '90s when Mark Coleman was like the baddest man on the planet, when he was like the heavyweight champ in the UFC. You remember that?
Yeah.
So like Mark Coleman did have a huge name, so that was beating like the baddest man on the planet for that big wrestling star when he
Yeah,
beat
and
Coleman.
he is just a gargantuan man as far as like his muscles.
That too. He does also look like a science experiment. I
Yeah.
won't lie.
So beating that, it's like, whoa, he's unbeatable. And it's like, oh, the pupil has learned more than the master could teach.
It's a good storyline.
Yeah, that's why I think there's potential.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how it progresses in the
Unless-
next chapter for Takata and or Mark Kerr.
Unless the Yakuza are just like, no, Japanese man win. I don't know.
I don't know. Well,
We'll find
I
out.
imagine we won't ever know.
She translated it in English. Did you hear that?
I want to throw my hat in the ring, and I want to fight in Pride. I think Pride has the best fighters in the world. It is the greatest ring in the world.
In between the co-main event and main event tonight, we were paid a visit by the UFC middleweight champion Frank Shamrock in Japan, in Pride. It's very weird.
I guess, but like Ken's a big name and Ken is a big name in Japan.
I mean, Frank was a big name in Japan too, and I guess like is a big name in Japan too. But I mean, they didn't have the exclusivity that they have now. You would never see a UFC champion like appear and say he wants. Spoiler: Frank would say he wants to fight in another, or he wants to fight in Pride.
Mm-hmm.
So you would never see a UFC champion now say they want to fight in another promotion. Like that would probably be like some sort of violation of their contract. So it's just optically kind of weird to see the champion of one promotion in the ring of another one saying they want to fight their guy.
I guess it would be kind of like seeing, was it K1? Is that that one of the current fighting promotions? It's like in Russia, K1.
M1?
M1. Saying he's going to fight the guy in M1.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying like what I was getting at was that like scale wise as far as promotion, like M1's much smaller than like the UFC, so it's like not quite the same comparison. It would be even weirder is my point now, because like it'd be like, hey Khabib, why do you want to beat up that poor kid over in M1? He doesn't. What'd he do to you? You know, this is just like, whoa, isn't your like boss okay with that? Like it's that kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
He barely has a boss, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't really have that kind of relationship yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, Frank's here, and look at him. He's excited. He's having a great time.
He's like, hey, I see you. I see you cheering for me.
The people love him.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Kazushi Sakuraba taking on Ebenezer Fontes Braga, which sounds like a rhyme, but it is not. It is just me announcing the people fighting.
I love Sakuraba. He's one of my favorites from Japan so far.
He is a fan favorite, and we're going to be seeing him a lot, so I'm glad you enjoy him, because he's not going anywhere.
I will say he's a little nuts for those bars, arm bars and leg bars.
Yeah, arm bars, knee bars, but especially the arm bars, a little spammy. I'll put it that way. This fight was very competitive.
Yeah. They were fairly even matched, I think.
Especially early on.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see Sakuraba, who we often accuse of being like submission spam heavy, have some pretty effective strikes. When they were on the ground, Sakuraba put a pretty good defense.
Yeah, he was able to slip out pretty well. And then I think, yeah, he took side mount from there, which
ensued the ending sequence.
Yeah.
Where he started to sink in an armbar, and then Braga threw an axe kick to try and escape. And by the way, just as a sidebar, tonight we saw, I don't want to say the debut because we've seen it before, but the emergence of curb stomps and crazy bullshit on the ground in Pride. So this was the second time we saw somebody try something like that tonight. Didn't work quite as well because the axe kick that he attempted while he was being armbarred just kind of wound up getting the armbar sunk in deeper and lost him the fight.
Yeah, that's a mean looking thing.
Yeah, that's like, we're done here unless you want to not use this thing for a while.
Mm-hmm. Braga wiggling with that axe kick just allowed that angle to get worse. And I'm glad he tapped, so we didn't have to watch him break.
The geometry.
Yes.
I believe it was Sakuraba that Frank had said he wanted to fight too. I don't think he just said, I want to fight in Pride. I think we kind of skipped over that. But he said he wanted to fight Sakuraba. Which,
I can see that.
They're like of a similar size, so it makes sense. And Pride doesn't have any champions yet at this point. So it's not like there's a champion for him to challenge, you know what I mean? So it's kind of just like pick the most popular dude who is near your size.
He better work on protecting his arms from arm bars then.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Cover that and knee bars, and you're like halfway done the fight. If you just work on protecting against those.
Up next, we have Gary Goodridge
Big Daddy.
taking on, and I'm probably going to fuck this man's name up, I'm sorry, Naoya Ogawa. I think they got the last name right.
Ogawa sounds right.
I mean, it says they're the same height here, but am I crazy in thinking that Ogawa looked like significantly larger than him?
I didn't really notice that.
Maybe it was just the fact that after throwing his first, 5 uppercuts, Gary just completely ran out of any and all stamina and turned into a fish for the next however long the merciless beating lasted. I mean, it wasn't, hard to watch merciless beating. It was just like, Gary, why don't your facilities work?
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I think his gas tank is getting worse than, Tank Abbott at this point.
Yeah, he's ballooning up from all those special vitamins, dude.
Yeah.
Stop going for jogs.
At least Tank could make it through multiple rounds.
I mean, I want to blame, the jet lag and the travel to Japan, too. But, dude, it's not like he didn't know he was coming here. Well, actually, you know what? I say that. But with Pride and Japan and the way they did things, you never know if they were, calling people last minute and being like, we'll give you a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because there were plenty of rumors that they would change people's opponent on them last minute, so.
That's possible, but shouldn't he,
I'm giving him way
No.
too much benefit of the doubt in that case, and I don't think that's what happened. It's just hard to see a dude who we saw elbow that man into the sun many moons ago fall off so hard. You know?
Yeah.
His wars with Don Fry. It was a good time, and now we're kind of just watching this large Japanese man almost break his arm.
Yeah, he's so intense right there. Because, like you said in the beginning, Gary came out real strong. And then Ogawa took him down.
That was basically it.
Yeah, and then Gary was losing throughout the rest of this fight.
I mean, he didn't get taken down and then immediately tapped, but as soon as he was like held down for a few minutes, it seems like it sapped all of his energy.
Mm-hmm.
It was completely ineffective. I have a note here about Gary attempting a knee bar.
Yeah,
and just how it was like the world's shittiest knee bar.
How long is this fight again?
This fight went 36 seconds into the second round. So, a little over 10 minutes.
Yeah. Most of that first round was on the ground, and there was a lot of attempts for a key lock.
Yes.
Almost exclusively.
Ogawa just spamming key lock attempts. None of them working, all of them predictable, all of them bad, but Gary, again, a fish out of water, not really defending them that well considering how predictable they were.
Yeah.
And then, as you can see, fell prey to one in the second round.
Ogawa even got mount in the second round. In the first round.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah. In the second round, Gary did try and throw some more punches, which they were okay, but then he just fell back down. And Ogawa kept going for that key lock, and Gary's tank is tiny.
And empty.
Yeah. But we talk about these fights getting fixed a lot.
Yeah.
Which there is proof to go with.
Some of them, for sure.
At least the claims for a lot of this early stuff.
Like 2 or 3 fights, it's almost guaranteed, yes.
The fight we had with Nobuhiko, you could argue me out of believing that was fixed. That's just me thinking like, oh, this would be a good storyline for them to continue.
You could see an angle.
For the big event of the night, you know? But for this one, I see it more easily.
You think this could be fixed?
Yeah, because he's just going for that key lock only. He didn't even really capitalize on having mount.
I mean, for me, this one feels more like incompetence over malfeasance. I just think Gary did not prepare adequately and still has not discovered cardio. So, it just kind of failed, you know. A failure to plan is a plan to fail, and a failure to plan to go for a jog in the morning is a plan to gas the fuck out in 3 seconds.
I don't solidly believe that this is fixed, but it twirls in my brain.
I'll say this. I'm more inclined to believe that Gary just fucked up. However, let's just say new details came to light revealing it was fixed. I wouldn't be like, what? Oh my god. I could see it. I'm just more inclined to believe that Gary, again, didn't purchase an elliptical or a treadmill or even go for like a swim. So
we've also had Gary lose what were suspicious fights before.
Gary's also one who I've seen in videos accuse Pride of fixing tons of fights. So it's totally within the realm of possibility this fight was fixed. I'm just telling you what I believe.
Yeah. Either way, fights fixed or not, Gary looked tired. So he needs that elliptical.
Real bad.
Yeah. If not, I can't see him being actually entertaining to watch at this point.
Unless they're just feeding him people from the crowd to murder. Which, dude, it's Pride. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
It's like Disney World.
Oh, way closer. Yeah.
So
First
it
two
could
were-
really go either way. Shoji was more effective aggression, though. He was the aggressor.
Shoji Akira.
One judge has it Shoji.
Guy Metza.
Guy Mesger, another judge. So we're gonna have a split. We're gonna have a split decision.
Miyake. Shoji Akira.
Okay. Fair enough. Akira Shoji out-hustled Guy Mesger to get the overtime split decision victory.
Up next, we have another favorite of ours in Pride, Akira Shoji, taking on Guy Mesger, who is making his Pride debut. Dude,
Crazy idea. Maybe those were weights.
I think they may have checked for that, Matt. They're like, oh, you even have a metal plate inside of your fucking pad here. You don't think Akira would have been like, hey, ref, can you touch that for me, bud?
But if they were, but not like they're padded, but they are also weights. So like there's metal in the padding. And then
I don't.
next time he shows
This
up,
is quite the accusation.
next time he shows up, he pulls a full Rock Lee, takes off the shin guards, and he kicks like a motherfucker.
He's just training.
Do you get that? Do you get what the reference?
I get that it is a Naruto reference.
Yes.
I, however, have not watched Naruto.
I haven't either, but I know this reference.
Well, congratulations, you get a gold star.
Yeah.
However, I do not believe Guy Mesger to smuggle illegal weaponry into his shin pads.
Well, no, it's to purposefully make him worse. So that way, when they're off, he is a god.
So, would you like to get into the actual fight?
Sure.
A lot of clinching, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised by given the background of both these dudes. And a lot of the clinching led to nothing.
Yeah.
Guy almost hit a takedown, but didn't really secure it. And that was about as close as we got to like actual guard play.
He did drop Shoji on his face once.
Yes, but failed to really capitalize on it.
It was a lot of going in the corner and struggling.
Especially in that first round. That first round was, I don't want to call it a feeling out process because that's not really accurate, but it was not the most high octane action on the card. The second round got a little more interesting. Again, I'm going to harp on it some more. Guy threw some head kicks. Perhaps those head kicks would have worked better if you hadn't put a helmet on your shins.
They were too slow with all the weight in them.
And too soft.
You were mentioning how he was fighting in Pancreas before this?
Pancreas.
Pancreas. I always want to say
It was
Pancreas.
called Pancreas, which is very good.
It shows what I know. Pancreas. Pancreas?
Pancreas.
Pancreas. And in that, you do wear those shin guards.
Yeah, they were... That was the thing, too. I was thinking that the only possible reason I could conceive as to why he would wear these would be like a good luck type of thing. Because he's been successful. They talked about he was the king of Pancrase, and I was very successful there. And there you have to wear those kick pads. And perhaps, even though he didn't have to wear them in Pride, and I imagine he had to know he didn't have to wear them, for like, I don't want to say superstition, but like good luck type of deal. Fighters are very superstitious, so I guess I will call it superstition. Decided to wear the same equipment, even though the rule set was different. Which, buddy, no, not a good idea.
Or maybe he just forgot that this wasn't Pancreas.
He showed up to the building and was like, oh man, the branding's kind of different. I wonder what's up with that. And then he got in there and he was like, oh,
Well,
this
it's
guy's
like-
not wearing shin pads. What's up with that? Where's kick pads?
Just like force a habit, you know?
You're just too distracted by Ken yelling at him the whole plane ride. He forgot to not wear them.
Just imagine them on like a private jet and the veins in Ken's
Yo,
neck
it's
just
so much
popping.
funnier to imagine that in Coach.
Yeah, you're right. Well, no, because like, imagine that they get on this plane.
Baby starts crying. Old lady asks them to quiet down. She's done giving a fuck.
No. Guy's like, oh wow, I get to go on this private jet. I've never been on one before. And it's like, oh, we get the champagne, and then
Ken's making him do push-ups on the floor.
Yeah, they sit next to each other, and then Ken's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Start working out.
They got a heavy bag in the plane.
Yeah, and it's swinging around with every turn.
Oh my God.
Round 2, more clinches, a few more punches. The crowd is yawning in the back. We started skipping ahead because they were on the ground for too long.
Yeah, not very eventful second round. And by the end of that round, we went to our decision. Now they've changed things tonight where we can either go to a judge's decision, or if the judges feel like those 2 rounds were too close, they can go to a 5-minute overtime. A little more liberal with the overtime tonight than perhaps we needed. Before we went in overtime, who'd you think was winning this fight?
It looked like Guy was doing a little better.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And the interesting thing about the overtime is that they're supposed to judge it as like an isolated round. They're not supposed to take the first 2 rounds into account when they judge the overtime if they need to go to the overtime. And a couple times tonight, commentary even noted that it seemed like the judges were judging it as a full fight because the result they rendered didn't really make sense if you were just judging the overtime.
Yeah.
So things got a little squirrely in the decision department, and after a fight like this that was not all that eventful to begin with in the first place, and some kind of unclear language about decisions, Shoji would win. The conspiratorial part of my brain wants to say that they deliberately made the language confusing in order to facilitate them doing some fuckery, but I don't know that. That's just me talking shit. So
I think they wanted overtime because in
I agree with that.
Pride's previous, they would just have it go until someone finished.
Until someone died or
Yeah.
of dehydration.
And maybe the culture just likes that better.
There's certainly a much more patient fight crowd over there than here.
Mm-hmm. And so having time limits without a decisive winner is like, we don't like that.
I will say it was very unsatisfying to just have 20 minutes then a draw like they were doing. I think the overtime is good. I think the language around it should be a little clearer, and I think they should be a little less liberal with it. The concept on its own I actually like, but the implementation could use some work.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a lot of respect.
Yeah, Kurosawa trading belts. Now this I love. This tradition I like.
Yeah, this tradition, man, this is cool shit.
Up next, we have Hiroki Kurosawa taking on Nobuki Kakuta. When we were on this screen, we thought, as I'm sure many of you did, that we were about to watch these two gentlemen participate in mixed martial arts. However, once we actually got into the contest,
it's strictly one martial art.
Just the one, and this one allows you to punch each other full blast in the chest and kick each other in the face, but no punches to the face. We had a karate match. We had I think a full contact karate match in the middle of Pride. I know we've had some kickboxing matches and jiu-jitsu demonstrations before, but this was just so jarring and weird. I don't know, man. Just any striking art where you're not allowed to punch someone in the face feels like bullshit to me.
And they did hit each other in the face a couple times.
Yeah, and they got reprimanded for it by this ref. But
And as soon as it went up against the ropes, in any format, or not any format, in any way they went up against the ropes, they got moved back to the center.
It was just weird. I mean, I guess part of Pride's brand is weird, so I shouldn't be too surprised by that. But for me personally, it felt kind of out of place.
It doesn't really have a place in this kind of thing.
Also, did we have a winner? Is that how that worked? Who won?
Because he clearly got more hits in, Hiroki Kurosawa won.
My last two notes on this are, I have no clue what I'm watching, and Kurosawa wins, I guess.
He was punching Kakuta's face a lot. Not face.
No,
chest.
Not
his
face.
Chest. He had hit his face once or twice, but mostly just his chest.
In this next fight, we had Igor Volchanchin taking on Carlos Barreto. Carlos, a full, 8 inches taller than Igor. Igor still weighs more. Very normal.
He's stocky.
Stout boy. I'm not going to mince words. This fight sucked eggs. It was not very good. There was some leg kicks from Igor that I found kind of interesting early on. But after that, a lot of cautious nothing going on in the first round. Very uneventful.
Carlos has huge legs, but didn't throw that many kicks.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's hard for me to blame Igor too much because Carlos has that stupid reach advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So Igor's trying to pick his moment and get in there. But Carlos isn't really using his reach to, fuck up Igor at all.
No.
Or even, outpoint him. He's just keeping him away with, vague threats of violence.
Yeah, just some jabs to measure the distance again.
And that's about it.
And a lot of circling.
Yeah. Igor, despite being the smaller man with less reach, had center for a lot of the first round.
Mm-hmm. It even got to the point where at the end of the first round, the crowd was booing.
Yeah, which you never hear in
Especially
Japan.
in Japan, yeah.
Yeah,
and the ref said to stop stalling at the beginning of the second round.
Yeah, ref gave stalling warnings, which is fucking rare for Pride. Igor did finally land a strike in the second round, like an impactful one, and Carlos did eventually get a takedown, but it didn't really salvage the fight in any way that made it enjoyable to watch, or like made me all that invested in who actually wound up getting the decision that we were obviously spiraling toward.
And we had that extra 5-minute round.
Yeah, because why the fuck not, I guess.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll just throw it in because we just want more of trash.
Yeah. And Igor won because I guess he participated more.
I mean, like I said, he held center more. He landed that one big punch in the second round. I like Igor. I've seen Igor fight before. I hope to see him fight again. But every now and then you get a fight where you have two people you like watching and their styles just make for a trash fight. This is one of those fights.
I think the angle that they were going for was small white man. Not even that small, to be honest. How tall is he again?
5'8".
Was it? Yeah, 5'8". He's like
Small for somebody who's over 200 pounds.
yeah. Versus lanky black man.
Like David and Goliath type of deal.
Yeah, but just not quite to the extreme that we've seen in the sport before.
They're trying to like recreate some iconic matchups, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like the Maurice Smith, Mark Coleman type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. They like the dynamic.
I think that's what they're trying to go for, and it just didn't work with this.
Yeah, not really at all. Up next, we have what is easily my fight of the night. I don't know about you, Matt. I found this fight to be mostly killer, little to no filler. Daijiro Matsui taking on Carlos Newton. I hinted earlier that we saw the emergence of the curb stomps here in Pride. This is where we saw that go down.
Even though Carlos was 30 pounds lighter in a sub 200 pound fight, I think he did really well.
They seemed very evenly matched.
So they both started striking, which wasn't exactly expected since they're both grapplers.
Yeah.
It did transition into grappling pretty quick, which was Carlos like being the backpack.
Like Spider Monkey, yeah, on Matsui.
Yeah, and he was on there for quite a while.
He rode him out for a minute there, and he tried to get an armbar, and that's when shit hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
So after that armbar, he got kind of crumpled up, and that was when Matsui tried to curb stomp him to stop the armbar, and it was mostly successful. I mean, he didn't knock him out with the curb stomp, but he stopped the armbar from progressing any further, and terrified me personally watching this, because we don't see curb stomps anymore.
Carlos recovered from that curb stomp going into side mount, but then that transitioned to getting getting Matsui's back,
where he refused to do too
he
much.
was so perplexed as to what to do in that position.
It's almost like when and this is not new, I believe this happened in his fight with Sakuraba as well, where he had his back and then just proceeded to do fuck all.
Yeah.
It feels like, and this is a question I had, because I wrote a question or two in here to ask you during the course of the show. Do you think he fully grasped the rules?
I feel like there aren't that many rules in this.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, why on earth would he think that from the position he was in, where he had, I don't know if he had hooks under his body triangle, and kind of had Matsui on the ground, why didn't he punch him in the face?
Well,
he was at an angle where he could loop it around and hit him in the front of the face. There was no back of the head concerns from where he was at.
what's Carlos's background?
I believe he's I mean, we do have the power of the internet to tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I believe he is a grappler, jiu-jitsu in particular.
But like, if there's another fighting promotion he's been in, where the rules were that you're not allowed to hit someone from like the back of the head or something.
I mean, he fought in the UFC before. Like,
Well, you're not allowed to hit the back of the head from the UFC.
you're not allowed to hit the back of the head in Pride either. I'm not saying he should hit him in the back of the head. I'm saying he should loop or just punch around when the guy's like this.
He may be unaware that he is allowed to hit the face while on their back.
That's certainly what it seems like to me, that he doesn't really understand what he can and cannot do on
he didn't
somebody's
even like
back.
go for a choke.
That's the other thing too, why I'm just so perplexed. There was no attempt at any finish of the fight. When normally you see a guy take the back, you start to think, oh, this thing's wrapping up. Like, he could pound him out here, he could go for a choke, whatever, man.
It's
but
like
not if you're Carlos.
It's like the only position that's more dominant than mount.
In some ways, it's more dominant than mount. If you have them like belly down and you have the hooks in.
Yeah.
Because they can't do shit. But again, Carlos, not a master, at least at this point in his career, of the art of finishing on the back.
He's just like,
Phrasing.
what does a man do with all this power? And then he freezes.
I mean, it's not like...
And then he suplexed Matsui.
Yes. Yes, he did. I forgot about that.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but he did do something eventually.
It was kind of nuts.
That wasn't like straight, oh, I don't know what to do with his back, I guess I'll suplex him. But he finagled around for a good maybe 10 seconds. And then...
Got dumped on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough, dude. And Carlos did eventually try for a rear naked choke, but it looked really bad. It was not that effective. I can kind of see why he wasn't going for it before. It's just so confusing because you think of that as such a, I don't want to say obvious because that's insulting, but like an intuitive position. Or at least I do.
No, that is obvious.
Okay.
That's just straight like, oh, he's cowering.
Like finish.
I'm winning here. From that Matsui suplex, he didn't really follow up that much. He tried to go for an armbar, but Matsui slammed Carlos on his head twice.
Yeah. And I know I'm harping on Carlos's inability to finish a lot here, but I do want to just be clear. This fight was really good.
Yeah.
This is easily the best fight of the night. And again, the bar not that high on these early Pride cards, but the level of competition and violence is on par with some stuff you'd see today, which is impressive for one of these early, again, not early 90s, I guess it's 99, but one of these late 90s Pride cards.
Mm-hmm.
And the round one ended. It was extremely exciting, extremely hard to score. Now, this is a fight where, once we eventually got to where they deemed we needed an overtime, I wasn't necessarily upset because I actually felt like it was very close. But before we get into that, let's talk about round two.
You also skipped Carlos kicking Matsui in the stomach, which is just like a rude kind of thing to do, just like soccer kicking him in the stomach at one point.
That's right. He did have some unorthodox strikes on the ground, to put it mildly. I don't have that in my notes. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
But then it was just back to he gets his back again. Oh, I don't know what to do.
Ineffective.
The struggle on the ground. And then round two happens.
And in round two, Matsui was again able to escape the arm bars. They weren't really working for Carlos, but he was going back to them in a way that I didn't find defensive.
They had to get reset at one point.
There was a couple resets by the ref. I think my favorite moment in that second round was when Carlos was on his back and Matsui decided he wanted to break out his gymnastics moves in order to enter the guard and did a cartwheel to get into Carlos's guard. Didn't do a lot once that happened, but it certainly made for a lot of oohing and ahhing from the crowd.
He got out of Carlos's guard, did that, and went back into his guard.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it didn't make any sense, because he was in his guard, stood up, just did the cartwheel, and was back in the guard.
And from that second armbar attempt in this round, Matsui actually got out and tried to do a donkey kick.
Yeah, dude.
Which it missed completely.
But it was inches.
I guess to me it looked more of a just guessing game I was trying to kick. But an interesting method.
Yeah.
Or choice of attack.
Definitely.
If it hit, it would have been pretty devastating.
But in general, not like a super controlled move.
No, because he was just going blind for that kick. If it would have hit, it would have hit Carlos in the side ribs area, which absolutely would have broken a rib, I think.
But it was certainly a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
So the judges, of course, like I said more fights, please. Give us an overtime period where it's mostly striking, but both guys are very tired. We would go to the judges' scorecards. Did you have anything you wanted to add about overtime?
No, it was kind of a brawl at the very beginning, and then just more normal striking.
Yeah, they were clearly kind of both winded after a really competitive fight.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos would get the edge at the end of the day, get his shiny trophy he could give a big kiss to. I have here a question for you at the end of this fight. Was this the best Pride fight we've ever seen?
It's up there. I can't think of anything specifically that tops it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at too. There's been some other stuff I've enjoyed more for the freak show quotient, but in terms of like competitive bout, this at least through 99 has to be like top 3, top 5 Pride fights for me, if not number 1. The only reason I'm not just going to come out and say this is number 1 is because I'm sure there's a fight that I really enjoyed, like Pride 2 or something that I'm forgetting about.
This was a really quality fight because of the rules or lack thereof that are here right now. I'd put it on par with some of the modern fights we see as far as entertainment value.
I would tend to agree. And it certainly makes up for Carlos's fight before that was a little less interesting.
Yeah.
It makes me very excited to see him again.
Carlos Newton. He's back, folks, and here's that fireball. Woo-ka! Here we go. Boom! Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah!
Up next, we have Egan Inoue taking on a man who could only ever be from the period 1995 through 2002, Karl Malenko. Look at this dude. I don't think that's his natural hair color, and if it is, the only acceptable frame in history to style it that way. The late 90s.
You don't think that would have flown in like 1880?
I think they would have called you a wizard and stoned you to death. And I think if you wore that now, people would make fun of you on Twitter
and stone you to death.
Yes. Maybe. Give me your. I don't want to monopolize the narrative. What are your thoughts on this fight?
I think it could have been better. I don't understand why Carl had the American flag on his ass.
That's right. He did have
when he was fighting another American.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's not in America, so he wants to just rep where he's from. But optically, like, if I just sat somebody down who doesn't watch the stuff with us and was like, is that dude fighting another American dude? They would have been like, it doesn't seem like it.
No. I'm kind of with Boss on this one as far as, like, halfway through the first round. He's just saying, we'd like to see some action.
That spurs the one question I had for you for this fight. Do you think, because we're aware that Boss and Steven started doing live commentary for Pride at some point in 1999, do you think by now we had live commentary, or do you think this was one of the last ones that the boys recorded in the studio? Because to me, this commentary read like it might have actually been live. However, I don't know when in 99 they started working for the company and did that whole backlog, so...
I would put my money on this is one of the ones that they had recorded and they watched it after it had happened.
It felt less gaff-filled and silly than the other ones, which is why I have like some suspicion maybe it was live.
Second recording day?
Or I guess they're more polished by that point because that's like one of the last ones they'd record. Who knows? But if again, another thing where if you have the information, please feed us your knowledge in the comments. Was this commentated live, or was this one of the final backlog fights? We'd love to know.
A lot of this fight was just clinches and tumbling on the ground, which, you see that in every fight, but it was like not active.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of work to finish anything or advance into dangerous positions. It was just it was like a World War One war for about 5 inches. Not really going too far to A or B, just moving a little bit. Not really getting big victories or little victories. Just like, I have double underhooks, or like, I'm in your guard now.
Mm-hmm.
No one's taking anybody's capital. No one's getting into back mount, put any rear naked chokes in. It's not a very eventful fight.
And that's why we are doing this as the last fight.
It makes me glad that we have decided to change our format and cover the main event first.
Yeah. There were a few choke attempts. There was even a triangle attempt. But Not a ton going on. The refs had to move them away from the ropes at one point.
Which is always just kind of funny.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 2 refs usually.
2 to 4 men lifting these guys up.
Shifting them over, and it's like, okay, we'll do that. And they were on the ground for so long, we almost thought they might do a stand-up, but it really seems to depend on what kind of ref you get.
Yeah, it's just like, has your ref had his coffee this morning or not, or is he in a good mood?
Yeah.
It just determines whether or not they stand you up.
Like, we have different kind of refs today for, like, their styles.
There's a little less variance, though.
Yeah, whereas here it's like, oh, this person wants them to stand up and fight, or this person just wants them to do whatever they want to do.
Also, maybe this is me being a little bit biased and like perhaps has to do more with a language barrier than anything else, but it seems like the refs in Pride, even as we continue, have way less control over, I can't say the ring or cage because I'm about to talk about both, so I'll just say the fighting space. Far less control over the fighting space than the UFC referees do. I don't know if that's because it's a language barrier. I don't know if that's because, especially in these early cards, it was a lot of gigantic former cop John McCarthy doing the commentary, refereeing for the UFC, so that's kind of a different dynamic. That dude's going to have control, whereas, like, these referees in Japan are, like, my height, you know what I mean? They're not big dudes, so maybe that's more to do with it than anything else, but it's a little weird to, like, if some shit went down in the UFC cage, I trust Big John to like get that shit under control and like have people help him get that shit under control. I don't necessarily trust if somebody just started going ape shit.
Well, we've seen
it. Yeah,
they need like 3 refs to stop it.
Yeah, when Mark Kerr and that asshole who tried to elbow him in the back of the head from like Pride. I don't know if it was 2 or 3. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you remember that.
I think it was Pride 3.
They needed a whole squad of refs to pull Mark off of him.
And it kind of worked.
And he got a kick in on the ground. I mean, it was very ineffective. Yeah, I guess that's just evidence to my point. So,
I also think 2 other things play into it. I feel like this is me as a white person trying to interpret someone else's culture.
Okay, I'll let you hang yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, here we go. Rope. I think the culture of fighting there is do it to the finish.
If he dies, bro.
Not necessarily that, but like they want someone to be the winner. They want a winner. They don't want to have to go to the judges, you know? And so to keep a ref out fits with that. So as if they can have the ref do less.
Refs are encouraged to do as little as possible.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying. There's also, I guess, another element I didn't really mention is the legal status of the sport in North America is kind of threatened.
Yeah, that's what I was going into.
Yeah.
The people in the UFC, they understand they can't go totally nuts or the sport might not exist anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If that becomes a huge headline. And the refs in the UFC know they have to stop it before it gets to just an actual bloodbath, because then the sport might
John
exist
McCain might
anymore.
come for them.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I can't have these 2 people fighting. I just got to watch people get knocked out 4 times in a row and
stand back up
in boxing.
Or I got to watch men smash into each other at the line of scrimmage every play and cause like 4 concussions every down.
I don't know why I thought you were going into NASCAR.
No, I was NFL. Lots of head trauma, but different topic for a different day. Anyway, yeah, that's a good point about the difference in officiating, and I think probably it counts for the difference in ring control that I've observed.
If I'm wrong about that culture thing, let me know. This is me just trying to find reason for what I'm seeing.
Since we've talked it out, I think it probably has less to do with their point of view and more to do with the UFC's unique context in like with the threat of like the long arm of the law. You know,
yeah,
I think that has more to do with the UFC taking like a hyper controlled posture than Pride taking maybe like a reasonably laxed posture. I don't know though, because like I wouldn't call what happened like reasonably laxed when it got out of hand. Like they needed to get that shit under control. They're lucky Mark Kerr is a nice man and calm down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a mix of things. The legality I think plays more into it.
Yeah.
Legal standing. And it does really help to have a large man officiating.
Who used to be a fucking cop.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us here today. I would say we enjoyed Pride 6. I enjoyed parts of Pride 6. I
Parts
thought
of it,
other
yeah.
parts of it were very good for when I'm having trouble sleeping. But I did really enjoy the Matsui Carlos Newton fight. And I was at least entertained by the weird karate fight that I did not understand. That was kind of neat.
The Sakuraba versus Braga fight was kind of interesting.
That's true too. That was fulfilling.
Yeah.
Even if we had some like weird bullshit on the card with Gary running out of any and all energy 30 seconds into the fight, and like the weird bated breath of is this main event fixed or not?
Yeah.
We had some good fights mixed in. Up next, we're going to be talking about UFC 21. So until then, if you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment telling us what you thought about the chaos and the nonsense tonight. And until UFC 21, we will see you guys later.
Bye. We love you.